Okay, with problem solving, we've identified the right things to focus on, and we've understood that it's not just what we're focusing on, it's what's underneath that. We've got clear goals and we know what we're trying to achieve. Third step here is to generate new ideas. Now, what I come across all of the time is at this point, even if we've done steps 1 and 2 very clearly, people tend to fall back into their comfort zones, that the solutions that they know have worked in the past. That's fine for management. Leaders, sometimes we need to take a bit of a conceptual leap and come up with something completely new. We need to test our existing ideas and see if there's anything better or different that might actually move us way beyond where we are at the moment. So what I want to do in this segment here is about helping you to realize how we can provoke new thinking, how we can generate more ideas. Now, the classic way of doing this is brainstorming, and people put a blank sheet of paper on the wall and just say, okay, give me your ideas. Personally, that doesn't work for me. Working with a blank sheet of paper, I get writer's block, and I kind of find it very difficult to generate ideas. What I need are things that stimulate my thinking. I need some triggers, some starting points, and there's all sorts of ways that you can do that with your people. So to provoke new thinking, one of the ways would be to reverse your goal and say, how would we make that worse? If the problem people are facing is overwhelm, well, how would we actually overwhelm people to breaking point? How would we make that worse? We're trying to improve the way that we handle complaints from customers. Instead of saying, well, how can we improve that, which is kind of boring, we have some fun with it. We're saying, well, how would we blow that out of the water and be the worst in the world? How could we really, and just have some fun and generate ideas, and then reverse those ideas. It can be quite fun. Maybe another idea would be to put up a sheet of paper on the wall with the objective and challenge your team to come up with 20 answers 3 days in a row. Now, some of these are going to be stupid, some of these are going to be rebellious, and actually they might be the trigger for the best ideas that'll come up. Some of them are sensible, some of them will be old school, some of them might be radical or new, but taking it 2 or 3 days, people get a chance to sleep on it, come up with some new ideas. But that's the challenge, 20 solutions every day, 3 days in a row. Another way that we can manage this process is pulling people apart and putting people together. So we break up existing teams and units and put people together in new and different ways. So that we've got a divergent group with diverse ideas and experience. Put engineers together with HR, together with accounts, and this kind of thing, and encourage them to come up with some different ideas. Another thing we can do is to prod, and sometimes a deadline can be a very creative thing, that if people know they've got a certain amount of time, we've got 60 seconds to come up with as many ideas as we can, then it gets a little bit competitive. Or this has to be completed by Thursday at noon. Well, people tend to go away and only think about it at the last minute, but those last minutes are when the creative juices really get going. So triggers and prods like that really get people working. I'm going to share with you shortly some ideas about how not to get blocked, but the key thing here is to find some ways. Now, I've got lots of these, but there isn't time to share them just now. The key thing is that you need to find ways of provoking thinking, getting people thinking from a different perspective. If Nelson Mandela was trying to solve this problem, what would he say? If Richard Branson was trying to solve this problem, what would he say? If Muhammad Ali was going to solve this problem, what would he say? And so on. Now, managing the creative process requires 4 steps. First of all, it's about preparation. It's about doing the groundwork and understanding the problem. Steps 1 and 2 in this process, we've already started working on that. But our people maybe need to get their heads around it. They need to think about it. They need to explore. They need to research. They need to gather data. They need to experiment and really understand what it is. And we need to check that they've properly understood the nature of the problem that they're trying to solve. But then what we need to manage is an incubation period. If we try to understand it and solve it straight away without any incubation time, our thinking is limited. So we need to manage our people to make sure that they have space to think, that they can go and sleep on it figuratively, or we take a break in a meeting, we go for a walk, get out in the sunshine or the rain depending on the weather, take a break and come back to it. New ideas will come up. Thirdly, there's a skill in recognizing insights when they come up. Sometimes the insight could be something that's said very quietly by someone, or it may be something that the cynic in the group says. It may be somebody trying to be funny and coming up with the most ridiculous idea. But in those, if we're listening right, there are the insights. So there's a skill here in recognizing insights when they happen. Step 4 in managing a creative process is verification. That sometimes people have been so creative and generated so many ideas and suggestions seem exciting and new, and wow, that's really got us motivated, let's do that. There is the reality check that we need to come back and actually test and check things. Now, in the materials associated with this topic, I've included a one-page case study, which is about Watson and Crick, who are the people who were able to define DNA and the structure of DNA. The way this worked was they were working in the laboratory on this for a long time, using all of their training, all of their expertise, and all of that was part of the preparation for being able to solve this problem. But eventually Watson cut out some cardboard shapes, took them home with him, and on a Saturday morning threw them, on the floor and just started playing with them and trying to put them together in different ways. And all of a sudden, with that space, the solution became apparent. He played with it in a different way. He thought he'd seen the solution. He recognized the insight. He recognized what he was seeing. But the final point was he needed Crick to verify that he'd found the right answer, because he thought he'd found the solution before. Crick was his auditor, if you like. He had to take his idea to Crick to say, is this right? Does this work? 4-step process, managing the creative process. Now next I'm going to share with you 4 ways, that's 4 steps in managing the creative process. I want to share with you 4 things that tend to block the creative process and give you some illustrations of those so that you're aware of them when they occur and you can think about how to overcome them.